Hello everyone, my name is Will and this is my breakdown and reaction after watching the very first episode of classic Doctor Who, An Unearthly Child. Now I'll mainly be doing my breakdown of the episode, how I felt at each stage of this marvellous opening show, and I also want to share what I found in terms of things that New Who or other popular culture has copied or taken influence from. If you want to see more, then please subscribe or follow us on our social media accounts. The episode of course starts off with the title sequence. Listening to this for the first time gave me chills. I've probably heard this rendition before, but wow, there's no wonder why this theme itself became known to the whole of the UK. The title sequence is the very first thing you see in this episode. Usually with modern Who, there is a cold opening where they introduce some aspect of the episode before a cliffhanger and then the title sequence. But if you remember back to Rose, the very first episode of New Doctor Who, that starts out with the title sequence. There is no cold opener. That could be Russell T Davies' way of starting out by acknowledging episodes of classic Doctor Who. The logo is iconic in all of its different forms, but here it's just a simple logo compared to the jazzy and complex logos that are to come. Stephen Moffat pays homage to this title sequence and logo by showing it at the start of the 50th anniversary along with the policeman, the first thing you see in this episode. The opening shots of the 50th also have the sign replicating the foreman, scrap merchants, and it is outside Coal Hill School, the very same one where we meet Susan, Ian and Barbara. After the opening graphics, the theme tune keeps playing for a good while. This was weird listening to, as in New Doctor Who, the titles and the theme tune end at the same time.
Here we go.
The only other time I can think of where the theme is playing outside of this is in The Timeless Child.
Have a blast of this, Matrix.
Anyway, the theme runs until we see the TARDIS for the first time, and oh, what a magnificent sight. Although it looks worn and beat down compared to the TARDIS in New Doctor Who. The outside of the police box does change over the course of the show, I know that, and this is mentioned in Twice Upon a Time.
It seems to have expanded.
Well, it's all those years of bigger on the inside. You try sucking your tummy in that long.
And you can hear the magical background hum of the TARDIS, it's so great. When the shot zooms in, you can see the little pull to open card, and the text for it is unchanged as well. It's identical, it's weird that the font is the same. Now it must be a font that doesn't register well with the Doctor.
There's an instruction at the bottom. What does it say?
Pull to open.
Yes, and what do you do?
I push.
Every single time, 700 years, police box doors open out the way.
Then we cut to the school, Coal Hill School, which is again referenced to in New Doctor Who with Clara Oswald working there as she's a teacher. Then we come to Ian and Barbara, the soon-to-be companions. I love their chemistry, I love the way they banter, and also they really relate to each other, especially over their teaching experiences and their experiences with Susan. Watching this now, I know who Susan is, and therefore I know that she has advanced knowledge because she's a Gallifreyan whose civilization knows a lot more than these two teachers do. But what is so wonderful about the writing is that you can guess something like that, even if you were watching this at the time with no prior knowledge. But what's impressive is that the writers don't spoon-feed the audience. They let out this dialogue that lets the viewer guess for themselves that she's more advanced and or not from around here, which is great. The great fast dialogue and the interesting plot was a pleasant surprise, and I'm excited by this. One worry I did have before starting classic Doctor Who was that the writing might be slow or not good, but the non-simplistic plot so far immediately got rid of those doubts. This first shot of Susan is so iconic and cool. When Ian and Barbara are talking to Susan, they mention John Smith.
It's John Smith and the Cumbermen. They found from 19 to 2.
John Smith is the state.
Honestly, I wasn't expecting that to come up. Is this just a coincidence, or will the Doctor start calling himself John Smith because of that? I don't know when that starts, although I do remember from School Reunion that Sarah Jane Smith mentions it.
John Smith. I used to have a friend who sometimes went by that name.
So at least therefore I know that he starts calling himself that during or before the Elizabeth Sladen era. So maybe this is the reason. I guess I'll have to find out. Barbara gives Susan a book, and Susan mentions that she'll have finished the book by tomorrow.
I'll return it tomorrow.
Oh, that's not necessary. Keep it until you've finished it.
I have finished it.
And the shocked reaction from Barbara's face indicates that she must be a fast reader. This extremely quick intake of knowledge by reading is mirrored in Rose when the Doctor does this.
Some sort of joke that just went wrong.
Sad ending.
And in Flesh and Stone, when the Doctor does this.
The only one. It's written by a madman. It's barely readable, but I've marked a few passages.
Not bad, but slow in the middle.
These sort of commonalities are the type of things I love, and I'm desperate to catch them all. Traits from New Who that I can find in Classic Who. Another example of this is right after Ian and Barbara leave. Susan looks at the history book and exclaims,
That's not right.
Now this reminded me of the Doctor in The Pandorica Opens, when he and Amy are looking around a museum and he's going around just saying stuff is wrong.
Wrong, bit right, mostly wrong.
This little part in the pilot was meant to again suggest to the viewer that Susan was there at the point of history that the book is talking about, and that's why she knows it's wrong. One area that was so pleasing to see was that the writers of Doctor Who seemingly actually travelled in time. In a flashback scene, Susan exclaims that the UK will adopt the decimal system, that they haven't done it yet.
I'm sorry, Miss Wright.
Don't be silly, Susan. The United States has a decimal system. You know perfectly well that we do not.
Of course the decimal system hasn't started yet.
I googled it and found out that the UK did actually switch, but 8 whole years after this aired. Did the writers have a time machine and check in on the future? It could be, but at the time, other countries like the US had adopted the decimal system, and it was only a matter of time before the UK did the same, and the writers took advantage of that fact. New Who writers did something similar to this in the Shakespeare Code, where the Doctor talks about something that's definitely coming up, that's definitely going to make you cry, and that viewers would definitely know about.
Wait till you read book 7. Oh, I cried.
It would have been terrible if J.K. Rowling had decided not to write that 7th book. This scene would have been ruined forever. As Ian and Barbara get more curious about Susan,
Nothing about this girl makes sense.
they share memories of Susan, quick flashback sequences. This quick flashback sequence really was wholly unexpected and, funnily enough, reminded me of Family Guy cutaway segments.
Turn to Doctor Who farted.
Doctor, the alien attack has begun. We've got to return to the 21st century.
We can't go into the time machine right now.
But they're going to kill us all.
All right, just 1 second. So, how was your weekend?
Now, movies had been using flashback sequences way before this, but this use of non-linear timeline was something that would be used in television and cinema heavily in the years to come. I love how they keep focusing on the word dimension. I love that. It must have been the scientific word dripping into culture at the time. What I love about movies and pop culture is that you can track how old a film is depending on how much they explain something, because the general audience slowly know more and more about random stuff. For example, the term EMP, electromagnetic pulse. With movies like Ocean's 11 in 2001, they fully spend a whole scene explaining what an EMP is, but nowadays in cinema, characters freely use the word EMP, and the audience is expected and generally does know what the word means without it needing to be explained. So the word dimension here could be a hot word in science at the time. A common scientific word to use at the moment is the word quantum, and in Ant-Man and the Wasp they use it a lot and acknowledge it when they say this line.
Do you guys just put the word quantum in front of everything?
While Ian and Barbara sat in the car with the low lighting, I did note for the first time about the quality. Yes, this show came out nearly 60 years ago, but unless I actually focus on the quality, it really doesn't bother me. Again, I'm pleasantly surprised by this. This is definitely a weeping angel, by the way. I love that when Ian touches the TARDIS, he immediately realises it's alive. This is a big theme in modern Doctor Who, and it's great to see this aspect given to the audience early. Then Ian walks around the TARDIS, which is brought up again later. It just sells the fact that it really is bigger on the inside. This, of course, is referenced in New Who by pretty much every companion. Here he is, the Doctor. Now, my mum always said that she remembered the first Doctor as being terrifying, and I didn't think much of that because she was a little girl at the time, but oh no, he is made out to be scary here. It is so interesting. I love that he mumbles to himself when he's working things out.
One of their pupils, not the police then.
I beg your pardon?
Why were you spying on her? Who are you?
And when he interrogates Barbara and Ian, he smiles, but he also looks ominous, like he knows he's in control and that he's dangerous. Then they enter the TARDIS, and the sounds and the environment are just awesome. The round things are on the wall, and they're obviously amazing. And it reminds me of Twice Upon a Time documentary when they used half of the wall of the set to have round things, and the other half of the wall, they used the round things from the 50th anniversary set. There's the weird thing about the doors being different on the inside to the outside, but I actually love this because it resonates with the whole chameleon circuit thing. You know, when you're in the TARDIS, the chameleon circuit isn't going to show you the police box doors because you're on the inside. This is fixed in New Doctor Who, along with the fact that you can see into the TARDIS from the outside. It's not just a black hole. In Twice Upon a Time, they recreate this by having the doors different on the inside to the outside and having the inside of the TARDIS look black. The Doctor makes the point to Susan that if they stay in one place for too long, they will get noticed. And this is a plot point that has been used in a lot of pop culture since. It's great to get the reaction of seeing inside the TARDIS for the first time, and they point out again that he's walked around it. I was waiting patiently for someone to say it's bigger on the inside, but I guess I'll have to wait a little bit later for that. Now we come to the Doctor's demeanour and posture. He shows an arrogance and a dismissal for those around him. Now, this is obviously not like the take on the character in most of New Who.
Blimey, that's amazing. Do you know, in 900 years of time and space, I've never met anyone who wasn't important before.
And this got me thinking that, at this point, this is a young Time Lord. He's an old actor, but the Doctor is young here. Therefore, he might be an arrogant and he might be a little mean, and therefore he's got a 900-year character arc where the Doctor will change from this man, a man who's running experiments, to the Doctor that saves the world. This is hinted at Twice Upon a Time, where the first Doctor learns that he will become the Doctor of War, but that means being the hero of this fairy tale universe. And I can't wait to see how the Doctor progresses from this Doctor to the Doctor I grew up with from 2005. I love that he's mumbling to himself while he's not listening. It's so amazing and really well done by the actor and the writers.
Dear, this is very...
I walked all round it.
It stopped again, you know, and I've tried... Oh, you wouldn't understand, of course.
But I want to understand.
And it's also his dismissal of their amazement about what's going on around them. It reminds me of Rick and Morty. You know how Rick does all these amazing things and goes to these amazing places, and while everyone is marvelling around him, he's just not caring. It's like he's seen it all before. It's nothing new to him. He just passes it off. I love that the Doctor has this kind of view while Ian and Barbara are just losing their minds. The writing certainly makes the Doctor out to be some sort of villain, where the teachers were too curious for their own good and now have entered the villain's lair to which they will never escape, and this is so weird but awesome to see. It reminds me as a New Who fan how dangerous the Doctor would be if he switched sides and became evil. And I love this little swagger to the console. Later, the Doctor tries to explain the dimensions to Ian, but he realises that Ian's never going to get his head around the science, so he uses this analogy.
You say you can't fit an enormous building into one of your smaller sitting rooms?
No.
But you've discovered television, haven't you?
Yes.
Then by showing an enormous building on your television screen, you can do what seemed impossible, couldn't you?
This reminds me of Matt Smith trying to explain something incomprehensible to Rory, and he says this.
How can we be outside the universe? The universe is everything.
Imagine a great big soap bubble with one of those tiny little bubbles on the outside.
Okay.
But it's nothing like that.
Hartnell calls the TARDIS the ship.
So tell everybody about the ship now.
The ship. You still call it a ship?
Yes, ship. This doesn't roll along on wheels, you know.
But Susan actually calls it the TARDIS.
Well, I made up the name TARDIS from the initials, time and relative dimension in space.
She interestingly also says that she came up with the name, which is lovely to hear. But then I thought to times when other Gallifreyans have also called it a TARDIS.
Something wrong?
It's the repair shop. What kind of idiot would try and steal a faulty TARDIS?
And I know Doctor Who is wibbly wobbly canon, and I don't really care. I just thought I'd like to mention that I love that Susan came up with the name. The episode has a great line which kind of sums up the whole of Doctor Who.
Let me get this straight. A thing that looks like a police box standing in a junkyard, it can move anywhere in time and space?
Yes.
Quite so.
And this really reminded me of another plot in the 11th Hour, when the Doctor also makes this line which pretty much sums up the Doctor.
I am definitely a madman with a box.
It lets the viewers know what they are in for.
Yeah.
Off topic a little, again, while the Doctor is ridiculing Ian, he talks about how the children in his civilization would be much smarter than that of a human.
You're treating us like children.
Am I? The children of my civilization would be insulted.
This reminds me of a great clip and point from Neil deGrasse Tyson, where he makes the comparison between Stephen Hawking, the smartest of us, and the child of, or children of, an advanced civilization. I'll link it in the description and give it a watch, especially if you like Doctor Who. It's your kind of thing, believe me. When the Doctor says,
I tolerate this century, but I don't enjoy it.
It's interesting because the majority of his companions in his life will come from this century, so does his mind change in upcoming episodes? Or is this the start of the character development that I mentioned earlier? Again, don't spoil stuff for me in the comments. These are just the questions I'm asking myself at this point in time.
Susan and I are cut off from our own planet, without friends or protection.
This is the first time they mention they are from another world, but they don't say the name Gallifrey. Now I do know that they don't mention Gallifrey by name until at least after William Hartnell has regenerated, and that's because I saw that for the 50th anniversary, for this incredible scene,
Calling the War Council of Gallifrey, this is the Doctor.
they had to get a voice actor in for William Hartnell's Gallifrey line because there obviously were no prior recordings of him saying the word Gallifrey. The Doctor says that they can't go back to their homeworld, and this mirrors a major plot in New Who that the Doctor can't go back to Gallifrey, and more accurately mirrors Peter Capaldi's arc trying to get back and find Gallifrey after he saved it in the Day of the Doctor. Barbara addresses the fact that Susan and the Doctor look and sound human.
But you are one of us. You look like us. You sound like us.
And this is again a point that is repeated in the plot of the 2005 reboot.
If you are an alien, how come you sound like you're from the north?
Lots of planets have a north.
The TARDIS takes flight. Firstly, the effects of the time vortex they use are again the opening title graphics, showing that this is what travelling in time looks like. This is a heavy feature that's repeated in New Who. Also, the graphics being displayed over their faces reminds me of the end of a 2001 A Space Odyssey, so maybe Stanley Kubrick drew inspiration from this. Also, the tumbling around inside the TARDIS is a common theme of New Who, and they get us used to it right off the bat with all our heroes taking a tumble. Also, that sound. The sound of the TARDIS is exact. It's exact to the New Who sound. I always imagined that it would be slightly different, maybe less enhanced or with less effects, but I suppose that it being the same sound after all this time makes this scene all the more meaningful.
You know the sound the TARDIS makes? That wheezing, groaning. That sound brings hope wherever it goes.
Thank you for watching. This is my reaction to just episode 1, not the whole story, but from now on I will be usually doing a video per story. But this one is the episode that started it all, so I thought it could do with a video of its own. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you enjoyed my New Who references, and if you want to see more, subscribe for the rest of the series. I honestly can't wait.
Have you ever thought what it's like to be wanderers in the fourth dimension? Have you?